If you're visiting with us, thank you for coming. We are journeying through a series called To Be Continued, where we're focusing on the last chapter of the book of Luke, and probably the first chapter of the book of Acts. So as you read through, you get Luke writes the historical perspective of Jesus' life, and then Acts is the Acts of the Apostles, the Holy Spirit working throughout the beginnings of the church. And what happens a lot of times is we get to Easter time and we go, oh, the cross was horrible and Jesus rose and everything's great now, but we don't really look at what the implications were or how that came to be in this kind of weird in-between time. Like a lot of times we get to Peter's sermon in Acts 2 on Pentecost and they have this great moment and the church really explodes, but what happened in the middle? And so we're taking it little by little by little each week to kind of go through some of these things. I realized for my own self is that sometimes I can stand up here and talk way too much or give you way more information than you can practically digest. And so it's been good for me when we go through one chapter over a number of weeks to actually go, no, we can just focus on this. And you don't have to feel bad. Like I got done like 10 minutes early this morning for first service. That's not going to happen at second service because I'll think of more things to say. But it's been helpful, and I think it's a good way to kind of push through. And I use that as a segue. For those of you that are here in the summertime, we're going to bring back the Lucky Pot series for the summer, where you throw whatever sort of crazy theological or biblical questions you have into the crock pot, and then we pull one out, and it's just the luck of the draw, and then we move through the summer. And sometimes those turn into big, long series, like the Heaven series or the Sexuality one, or that anything and everything is open for discussion, and this is the place where we should be able to have those conversations. So have that stirred in your head, and we'll put the crock pot out sometime in the middle of May, maybe after Mother's Day, so that you don't have to have Mother's Day crock pot anxiety and where you're going to eat and all that. But this week we are Luke 24. I'm going to pray, and then we'll jump in, but I will tell you is I'm going to need your help in twofold. I'm going to need 3 volunteers that you don't have to say anything, and I won't make you do anything foolish or anything. Don't worry about that. And then I'm going to need for y'all to tell me where we've been. So it's a good idea whether you have one of these to look at or the thing in front of you to look at is helpful too, to open that up to Luke 24, and we'll talk about that in a minute. I'm going to pray, and then we'll jump in here. Spirit, I ask that you would come. I pray that the busyness of the day, our week, the anxieties that we hold close, that you would help us to lay them at your feet, to set them down and simply be here. Not thinking about the next thing to do or the what ifs after this, but that we would be here and that your voice would refresh, renew, and bring life. Just like the day you took dirt from the ground in the Garden of Eden, Adamah, and you spoke life, and Adam was. I pray that you would speak that same life to us, that your words would be a refreshing wind, and we would breathe deep of you, and not of the news feed on our telephone or the things that we have waiting after this, but that here and now you would speak, and we would hear you. Amen. Luke 24, just a few verses this week. We're going to look at verse 28 through 32. Now, as they approached the village to which they were going, Jesus continued on as if he was going farther. But they urged him strongly, "Stay with us, for it's nearly evening and the day is almost over." So he went in with them. When he was at the table with them, he took bread. He gave thanks. He broke it and began to give it to them, and their eyes were opened, and they recognized him, and he disappeared from their sight. They asked each other, "Were not our hearts burning within us while we talked, and he talked with us on the road and opened the scriptures to us?" So here's what I need from y'all. 47 seconds of somebody next to you, or to yourself if that's your persuasion, so that you can tell me what has happened so far. And I'm talking from verse 1, chapter 24, to this point. And we're going to kind of sketch it along so that you can kind of grasp the story. Okay? 47 seconds. Ready, set, go. Y'all are really quiet. Raise your hand if your neighbor's not saying anything. Okay, what do you got? We start off the beginning of chapter 24, and what happens? Not all at once, but more than one at a time is okay as long as we... Hey, yeah? Yes. So when we get to where today is, he's going to keep on walking. Save that. Not Tate? No? Okay. Chapter 24. The ladies go to the tomb very early in the morning. Now keep in mind, very early in the morning, and we get varying opinions between the different gospel accounts of one of them says it was just before dawn, and some say it was at dawn, and another one says just very early in the morning. That's Luke's way as a historian to say it was super early, and I don't really know. But it was early, and they go to the tomb, and what is there? Stone is rolled away, because they walk there and they go, hey, how are we going to move that big rock? I don't know. I guess we ask somebody maybe, and it's moved. They go inside, and it's empty, and not completely empty. What's in there? Room. The cloth, the linen cloth that Jesus' body was wrapped in. And what else? Shazam! Remember this? Lightning clothes guys like Marvel Comics, DC, Shazam? No? Some of you are nodding your heads. The lightning boys are there, and you go, whoa! And they get scared. And what do the angels tell them? Andrew, you're looking at me. I notice your beard is all... I thought maybe you said something, and then you were like, I'm not going to say anything. Okay, sorry, not to draw your attention to Andrew's almost shaven face. What did they find out from the angels? He's not there, but what do they say? This is kind of important. Nope, not to run back. They do run back. He's risen, and you should have known. He's not here. He's risen, and you should have known that. He told you, and they go, oh, that's right. And then they run off, and they go where? They go tell the others. And who are the others? That's a much better answer. Dean, everybody is not the answer I was looking for. Everybody was there. So there's the disciples, like the close ones that we call apostles, and then there's the extended disciples, the ones that we go, I ain't never heard of those people. And then there's the others, and then there's the ladies that are there that are actually included in the disciples. Whoever told you that they weren't included in disciples is crazy, because they've been following along with Jesus the whole way too. They're just not in the front 12. So the 12 are there, and a couple others, and do they believe? No, they don't. They don't believe. And then what does Peter do? He gets up and he's like, I'm going to check this out for myself. Because what did they think the ladies were talking? Talking crazy nonsense. They're like, oh, we're going to need to take you to the McKinnon Behavioral Institute so you can see Santa Claus when you go in. Like, somebody clearly was not thinking that through when they hired him. For those of you that don't know, Lyle, Santa Claus works down at the behavioral health, and so when you walk in to get checked in, you meet Santa Claus. And so you're like, I'm not doing well. I think I'm seeing, hey. I told first service, this is my Santa Claus starter kit. He's been here for 45 years, so I figure after like 20, then I can start growing the beard, because then it'll get all nice and white and we can pass the baton. The ladies tell them, and the disciples are like, y'all are nuts. No, that's not how it is. And so Pete goes and he runs and he checks out the scene and he picks up the linen, and then what? Does he believe? No, he doesn't either. Luke doesn't tell us the story that the other Gospels have, that he actually meets Jesus. He goes to the tomb, he picks it up, and he walks out wondering what happened. It doesn't say he saw it and was like, oh, that's right, he said. In Luke chapter 9. Wait, no, because none of that existed. They just had conversations and stories and life on life. And so they head out, and then what happens? This is all the same day. We talked about this last week. Kish. So they was like disguised, and he was like walking up saying, yo, you don't know, bro? What's going on? Yo, you don't know, bro? Like, yeah, that's exactly what happened. There's two people walking along, Cleopas and somebody else, and I'll give you the historical account is we have no idea who was walking with Cleo. The possibilities that I've heard historically are some of the early church fathers thought, I bet it was Luke. Just like how you get through John's gospel and John never says, I'm the beloved disciple necessarily, and we don't have this story from anywhere else but Luke, so maybe it was Luke walking along. I don't really think so. It's possible. And then others think that it was one of the ladies that was at the cross when they say Clopas' wife, because Cleopas and Clopas is a very similar kind of transliteration when you're trying to write those things down. Either way, maybe it is another male disciple, maybe it is Cleo's wife, and they're walking along. They're headed towards Emmaus the same day. So they were a part of the group that hears the story. They were a part of the group that hears that he's not there and you saw the lightning twins, and I'm not really sure I believe that. And they start walking along, and Jesus shows up, but do they recognize him? Why not? Luke just tells us they were kept from recognizing him. So here's the thing. If Jesus is walking up and they completely recognize him, do you think they're going to hear the whole story of the things that they should have remembered? Or are they just going to be like, how are you doing? It'd be weird and awkward. I mean, just think about this. Like, he has a conversation with them and they don't know it's him. And as they walk along, he shares all of the things that they should know. Then we get to today. They show up walking along and he comes along with us. And as they approach the village to which they were going, now here's where the question is this a stop on the road? Is this a break at a hostel or an inn or a restaurant? Or is this their house? They were going to a place called Emmaus, which was about 7 miles away. And as they approached the village to which they were going, seems to me, as you read through, this is their intended destination. This is probably where they lived. They show up. Hey, this is our place. And what does Jesus do? He just keep on going. This is one of those English teacher grammatical notes. I always have to say this. Farther is relative to distance. Further is relative to not distance when you think about those things. Like, furthermore, I want to tell you things, but Jesus went farther. He kept on going. He wasn't there to keep telling them stuff. So as they go towards the house, he's like, all right, see you later. No. Come, stay. They beg him. They plead him. Come on, don't go. It's getting late. People don't just walk off into the desert when it's late and getting dark. You should just come and stay with us. Jesus says, okay. Now, here's where I need my volunteers. I need 3 people. You can just come up. I'm not going to pick you. If there's more than 3, then you'll have to wrestle. Oh. Okay. Have a seat. Shame on all you adults for making the kids do this stuff for you. Now, what does the next part of the story say? When he was at the table with them. Now, I will clue you into a little bit of historical Near Eastern culture. They didn't sit like this. This is how we sit. Sorry, I'm in front of y'all over here. Near Eastern people don't sit like this. The actual Greek says, as they reclined at the table. Now, I'm not going to put the table all the way on the ground and make you recline at it, but what I do need you to do is sit so that you have to lean on it. That was not effective. Okay. You know when you first get to a chair and you turn it backwards and you sit at the chair and you kind of hunch over, how it's not supposed to be? So I need you to sit sideways on maybe your hip and then lean in with one of your arms. Because how they would sit at the table is literally feet out, body towards the food. Not feet underneath, feet out, body towards the food. And then Jesus takes the bread, and he does what a Hebrew would do during this time. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. You're looking at me, sorry. Blessed are you, Lord God, King of the universe. Hamotzi lachem min haaretz. The bread that comes from the ground, you provide us. He takes bread, and he breaks it. Now, break the bread. And then you can give it out. See, now you have a little more appreciation for me on Communion Sunday, where you're like, there are moments like the last time when there was no juice was one deal, but you don't know what it's like to try and tear the bread when it does not want to be torn. So you have to give it. Now give it out. Why do you think they recognized him? The hands. Now, if you're a traveler in the Near Eastern area where it's really hot outside, and you think that this is just more of an Islam thing, but no, it's a cultural thing. They wear turbans on their heads, and they cover up their faces, and they're all covered so that the sun doesn't burn them. When they finally sit down and Jesus goes, this is for you, and this is for you. What do you think they saw? That's your little to be continued for next week. The scars made a difference. Luke doesn't point it out here because he uses it in the next scene of what happens. But it's not just because they're eating bread. It's not because they're having this Holy Communion moment. Think pragmatically. Suddenly you look over and the guy that's handing you the food that you're about to eat has holes going through his arms. You go, whoa. And something stirs. Thank you, girls. You can go sit down. Take your bread with you because it's all COVID cooties now, so. Hey, go and see if Kish will eat it. Kish has this problem with other people touching his food. Now, the thing that's really helpful here is as you have to remember reclining. So this is very pronounced, or maybe Jesus sits up on his knees at this point. Whose house is it? Is it Jesus' house? It's probably Cleo's house, right? When was the last time you were at somebody else's house and, other than being a pastor, then people go, would you like to bless the meal? And I just simply go, no, I'm good. But it's your job. No, it's not. It's your house. You can pray for the food. He prayed for the food. They saw Jesus as somebody more than just a guy walking along the road. They said to him, you begin the blessing. You take the food that we're going to eat and tell God, thank you for this. Blessed are you, Lord God, King of the universe, the one that brings bread from the earth for us. Thank you. And in that moment, they're awakened. Now, what did Jesus tell them as they're walking along the road? The first thing that after they give the whole yo, bro, you don't know what's going on? And he's like, no, I don't know what's going on. What does he say to them? We talked about this. It's about their head and their heart. How do you not get it? The NIV is, you're so foolish. Are you that foolish? Are you that dull in the head and slow of heart? The NIV just translates it and not believing. Are you slow in your heart and slow in your head? And as they walk along and then they suddenly see Jesus in front of them handing them food. I wonder if they actually took the bread before he disappeared, or if it was like the bread just dropped on the table. Suddenly, this part and this part started to connect. Didn't your heart burn within you as you were walking along the road? Now, here's how we connect all these dots. They're walking along, and Jesus says, see ya. That's it. What that should tell you, after spending 7 miles, a full day journey, is he says, you got all you need. That's it. He explained to them from Moses through the prophets, here you go. You've got it. That's all you need. And they said, no. Why don't you come in? Because we would like just a little bit more. And the way you know that they wanted a little bit more is they gave him the prominent place at the table to bless the meal and distribute the food. They gave him the seat of honor. They gave him the one where they're going to say, we want to hear more from you. Here's your connection. Week after week after week, you have one of these. Thousands of years it's been around, and yet you still come here and expect me to tell you what it says. Now, I can tell you quippy stories and a few of the Greek things and the Hebrew things and the cultural things, which are good, but the reality is you have more than you could ever need right here. Jesus just decides to keep on walking because he's like, you got this. You have more than you need. But if you ask me to stay, if you invite me into your house, I'm coming. And you're going to get all of it. What we want is Jesus here. Sunday morning in the pew, as long as it's the one that we sit in and not somebody else sits in, and we have our spot, then you can get I call it the baby bird syndrome, where I chew up all the food and digest it for you and give it to you, and then you go, oh yeah, that was good. I liked that story. But the reality is you have all you need. Have you ever heard the phrase or said the phrase, you know, we went there and the music was nice, but I wasn't really getting fed. Have you heard that before? No? Okay. Y'all weren't giving me any feedback. I've heard that before, where people came here and said, you know, we just weren't getting fed at our other church. And I say, maybe it's because you weren't eating. Oh, this right here, You ain't got to pay $16 like at the Pizza Ranch. You could have all you want. Because the reality is if you get a little bit of this before you get some of this, then what happens is the things I say make way more sense. Because I've been my time here before coming here. And you don't get anything pre-digested. You begin to connect all these weird dots where you go, how did you think of those things? I didn't think of those things. I read it. I just read it. And God spoke. Jesus says, you have more than you ever need. And you even have a whole bunch of books they didn't even have. Here you go. That's all you need. I'm out. And they go, oh, wait, come in. So for us, then your challenge is to say, Jesus, come in. I don't want just Sunday or just Wednesday or maybe a little Bible study time. I want you to come in and sit at my table. We've heard the Greek phrase agape and phileo. If you've been to a wedding, you've heard these like words of love that are in the Greek language. There's a word for love, and I actually can't remember what it is right now. Oh, that's a horrible moment. That means hospitality. One of their words for love, just like brotherly love and self-sacrificial love, is hospitality, to invite things in. Cleo and his companion invite Jesus in, mind blown, heart burning. Why? Because they said, have a seat. Come on in. Don't worry about there's some dirty clothes over there and I got some stuff over here and let me fluff this out. This is kind of dirty. No, because what we want is for Jesus to know the best of us. And he already knows your worst. He doesn't care about your dirty laundry. He doesn't care when you scream and yell inside your house and the neighbors are like, dude, Ken, you were loud this afternoon. And then I realized it was the dog you were yelling at. And I was a little more like, the dog decided she wanted to eat the steak that I had sitting on the counter to thaw for supper. Because we want Jesus to know the best of us. And so we don't always invite him fully in. And he says, that's fine. Here you go. That's all you need. But if you would, I won't go any farther. If you would invite me in to the people in your house, to the things going on, to the ups and downs, to your angriness, to the things that you can't handle, to the things that you can handle, to the ways that you really don't want anybody else to know, I can come in there and something might just happen. Really happen. But you got to invite me in. You got to. That's where we leave today, is have you invited Jesus in? And I'm not talking about the evangelical kind of did you raise your hand at a thing? Did you invite Jesus into your heart? Because he didn't say, I want your heart. He said, I want to sit at the place where things don't always go good. I want to sit right there in your house. I want to be there with you. I want to be the one that says the blessing and gives you what you need. Have you done that? That's a little bit different than saying, Jesus, I'm really having a rough night. If you just get me through this, I'll start going to church more and I'll give more and this is, come on in. What I have all laying around, see it. The inconsistencies I have, see them. Come in. And he will. Once he's in, something will happen. Something will happen. Dustin, that's your cue. What happens is to be continued.